Good morning. We are starting the day about an hour earlier because Rachel and I have to be at a memorial around 10:30. It's one of those days where I know I'm going to experience both the joy of a day and the somberness of a day, the newness of a day, and also the routine of the day. Though I may spend the same amount of time every weekend with my wife, the conversations that we have, the food that we eat, the places we go may not be the same. Maybe one of those variables will be the same, but then the others will not be. I might have a weekly hangout and a get together with friends. But again, the things that we do, the places we go, the food that we eat, the conversations that we have, if one of those factors aren't the same as the prior week, then it's a new experience in total. Morning. Morning. I was low-key hoping to go get a breakfast burrito.
Low Kurt Genuinely.
Oh man.
Claudia Skilos.
We need to go get water. So Saturday was a flux of emotion, as I predicted. And I'm sure you've all been there, where you have a brief interaction with an individual. Nothing deep, nothing profound, just the everyday. And it seems as though this person is genuine. Now, that kind of judgment, can be wrong sometimes, but for the most part, when you have those casual interactions of, greeting someone or just, I don't even want to call it small talk. It's just talk that enables you to see this person in some sort of light. And that's the interaction that I had with Dan. I'm gonna be back.
Ready to go.
You guys gonna go get breakfast? Nice. All right, see you guys. Be careful, yeah? Bye. Do you guys have money for breakfast? Who's gonna? You sure? Okay. A couple weeks ago, Josh and Eunice brought some Dubai chocolate mochi thing. Tried it, was good, then went home. Told Rachel about it. She said that she saw it online and she wanted to try it. I came to Smoking Tiger last week, they didn't have it, or so I thought. Came back this week after asking Josh and Eunice where in the store they had it. I only checked the glass containers. Turns out they have it in the refrigerator. Gotta ask the questions, man. I thought that I'd be a dummy for asking. It turns out that they have like models right next to the cash register. I have come to the conclusion that you are not the idiot for asking. You are not the idiot for trying. You are the idiot for not asking. You are the idiot for not trying.
The thing. Yeah, they had it. It was supposed to be in the back. I checked only the what is it?
John cookie.
Yes.
They have different flavors?
They had Dubai chocolate, and they had Ferrero Rocher, I think, and then black sesame. But it's both all good. It's all good. You should try it. We'll cut it.
It needs to put it in.
No, they should. They said to eat it now.
To thaw it.
Yeah, or to wait 5 to 10 minutes, before eating it, is what they say.
So a couple of years ago, several years ago, when my wife and I got married, we decided to check out a new church. Not for any other reason, but because we wanted to start fresh together. And we went to several different churches, and then we ended up at Branch of Hope OPC. And Dan was the first person that I interacted with because he was a greeter. Those individuals that make you feel like you aren't new. You know, not by the way they talk to you, not by the way that they interact with you, but just by the way they treat you, you know? And Dan was that person. He would talk about homeschooling his kids. He would talk about his hobbies. And it wasn't like we sat down at a table and then, you know, we were sharing coffee or a drink together. It was me and my wife walking towards the entrance of the church, and then Dan being there greeting us, and then having these kinds of, you know, casual conversation. And then after church, he would be there, and you know, we would, you know, shoot the breeze a little. But again, it wasn't a long interaction. It wasn't a profound interaction, but it, for some reason, continues to have profound implications on my life. And so I hear of a person at church passing away, and his name was Dan. And so I didn't really put it together until about a week ago, where you know, our friends go to the same church. They were talking about a memorial that's happening. Now, you might be wondering why it is that I didn't know. Is because for several months, my wife and I couldn't attend church because we had to take care of my father-in-law, and there were other things that were going on. Saturdays were very tiring, and so, you know, Sundays we would do some online services at times. But that was another thing, you know. Looking back at it now, like, we should have been there. My wife turns to me and says, "No, it's Dan. You know, Dan's the one that passed." And I'm thinking to myself, it can't be the Dan that I know, that we know. Yeah, it is. So he showed me a picture, and sure enough, it was Dan. And there was just an overwhelming sense of not guilt, because obviously, you know, I had nothing to do with his passing, but guilt in that, or regret maybe. I couldn't see Dan one more time. And so after the memorial service, I'm just sitting in one of the overflow rooms, just letting emotions run through. Just the people that went up, you know, spoke about Dan at the memorial service. They weren't some, you know, acquaintance. They were friends of his for 30, 40 years. And I only knew Dan for, gosh, a year or two, max. And yet I remember going to church and almost being excited to see Dan, you know, to see how his week was going, because I sure as hell knew that he was going to ask me how I was doing. Buber was saying that a person would have, or can have, a relatively profound and deep friendship or relationship with an individual without actually sharing deep and profound ideas, simply by the way they are, you know, by their nature, so to speak. And so, you know, he compares and contrasts the I-it, which is when I, in relationship to someone else, I only see, say, the title. And this is kind of going back and forth with what I was talking about in, I think, 2 videos ago. You know, Dan the greeter, you know, Dan the church member, Dan the friend, and going past that. and looking at Dan as a whole living presence, and in some way, shape, or form, connecting with that presence and not just the mask that Dan wears as a greeter or as a church friend and member. To a certain extent, not to say that the Stoics were correct, but the Stoics believed that a person of integrity would leave a moral scent. It would just kind of linger, and people, and certain people would be attracted to that scent, so to speak. I think that all kind of gives some level of explanation as to why it is that I felt a connection with Dan. So there are a couple of reflections that I want to take away from this. One, wherever you're supposed to be present, be present. Let me say that again. Wherever you're supposed to be present, both in spirit and physically. Honestly, I should have been at church more, and I wasn't. And I was supposed to be there. I don't want to make the same mistake twice. Number two, be intentional with your words. Be intentional with the way that you want to get to know somebody. Because it's not just about how you say things. We hear all the time, right? Like, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It goes deeper than that. That is a surface level understanding of what it means to build bonds. So be intentional. And lastly, spend the time working on your integrity. Spend the time working on your character. Because no matter what you say, no matter how you say something, if your character doesn't follow, it means nothing. It is to say, and I say this to my students all the time, your front and your back have to match. It needs to be not one and the same, but it needs to complement each other. Dan was that kind of person. Those are our reflections for this week. I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.